Hey, do you remember Yandere Simulator? You know, that demo from 2014 that many popular YouTube personalities streamed back in the day, but barely anyone remembers at this point.
Nobody cares about your
That indie game known for its overabundance of bugs and glitches thanks to incredibly long and convoluted style of coding.
How much spaghetti is in there?
The one that moved its date of release so many times that the joke about Dwarf Fortress releasing sooner became a reality. And now the only thing that the developer is able to do is to change a year when it's taking place in a vain attempt to save his face.
In 2019 or 2022? When will Yandere Simulator be finished? I don't know.
Unsurprisingly, there are dozens or maybe even hundreds of videos about those aspects of the development, or rather development hell it's been stuck for so long. However, one particular topic hasn't been mentioned nearly as often, if mentioned at all, reduced to either brief surface-level reference.
Also, you should check out this post. I don't know exactly how legitimate it is, but it does not read like an attention-grabbing kind of post. It does seem very genuine.
Or faced with a complete and utter disregard.
There was one account against him, and although a detailed testimony, there's no verifiable physical proof, so do with it what you will.
We'll see about that.
After all, this is way more harmful than another year without the release of a full game. I mean, everyone should get used by this point. Meanwhile, the evidence, or rather a metric ton of it, has always been there, waiting for someone to finally pay attention to it. Yet no one even tried. And this is exactly what I'm going to fix right now. I will present everything I was able to find, and then let you draw your own conclusions. Nothing more. But if you decide to dismiss this video without watching it first, and jump to comment section to tell how all of this is a lie and character assassination, and I'm just a troll who hates Alex, well...
Do me a favor, alright? I need you to find a cactus.
So, without further interruption, I invite you to take a look at Yandere Simulator's Open Secret. The best place to start this investigation is the biggest and the most detailed piece of evidence yet, namely a Tumblr page allegedly belonging to a woman nicknamed Sisevs, created on February 17, 2017. It tells the story of a girl who was living in an abusive, neglectful household and had to move to her grandmother. She took care of her, but had no problems with verbally abusing her or taking away her internet or PC. In 2009, she was 14 and in the process of finishing middle school. According to her, she had very few friends and felt very lonely, so she was spending a lot of her time online. She probably was 4chan regular too. Back then, many 4chan users tried to stream games, and this is how she found her way to EvaXvidia, named after Alex's lifelong alias EvaXephon. After some time, he found out that she was a girl and immediately became obsessed with her. She probably had problems with self-esteem, so she became flattered. She acknowledged her age, but Alex, who was 20 at the time, responded that since he was homeschooled, he had missed out on the experience of dating girls in high school, and this was the perfect opportunity to make up for that. So they began dating. According to her, Alex asked her to send him nudes and made her incorporate in inappropriate activities, like having sexually charged conversations or moaning into mic while he was pleasuring himself. She slowly realized that Alex used her as a sex doll, since he dismissed her during every other activity and was overall controlling. She tried to ignore it for some time until one day when he was streaming himself doing his homework from the college. And when she tried to give him advice, he replied that she was too young to know anything about it. That stunned, and she slowly began realizing how bad Alex really was. After some time, she said, "I can't see us being together any longer," which caused Alex to beg her to stay, and when she said, "Let's just be friends," he flipped out and said, "You can't ever come back since it's too painful to me, lol," and banned her from his chat. That was probably the last straw that caused the creation of Video Revolution, Revolt Against Eva, where his audience fled as a result. She came back under her other alias, but he banned her again after some time. She also admitted that she was in a relationship with other person during that, which she isn't proud of, but they broke up around the same time. Since she was afraid of getting grounded by her grandmother, she decided to just suppress it and keep her mouth shut. Fast forward to 2017 when she saw a Let's Play of Yandere Simulator. After some time, her friend told her that its creator is none other than EvaXephon. She clicked on one of his development videos, and as soon as she heard his voice, she knew it was him. She recalled everything and decided to create her blog to inform other people. Overall sounds realistic, but did she provide any proof of her telling the truth? Well, actually yes. On July 6, 2018, she gained access to her old PC and presented screenshots from her accounts and some very old pictures. Dates from those old posts coincide with the year when it presumably happened, and overall quality of pictures and screenshots is more characteristic of that time period. She also posted a picture of herself with "I love Eva" written on her fingers, thus adding to the credibility of her being in her teens during that time and somehow related to Alex. But in the end, all of this doesn't prove much beyond her using the internet around that time. Besides, screenshots can be edited or outright faked, and pictures could belong to any other girl. Add to this that some details like Alex's old alias of Eva Zephon and him getting homeschooled were common knowledge by that point. But as always, devil is in the details.
His justification, and I remember this clearly because it struck out to me as strange, was that since he was homeschooled, he had missed out on the experience of dating girls in high school, and this was the perfect opportunity to make up for that.
Alex said something really close to that message back in 2011, while talking to a girl he met on OkCupid. And before you say anything, Alex confirmed the legitimacy of that conversation from 2011 after volunteer Wunkelop posted a link to it in 2015. But it gets better.
We it over Skype. Worth noting, I think, is that he made excuses not to reciprocate text-based oral. Seriously?
Back in the same 2011, some unrelated person under a clever and absolutely brilliant alias of Zephon Eva has visited a forum, theeroticreview.com, where he specifically asked advice on how to behave when visiting a provider. And aside of goofs like, should I let a provider to call my former employer, he specifically stated that he isn't a fan of quid pro quo in regards to oral pleasures, and would refuse to give one even if he was asked to.
He masturbated on webcam to me while I made moaning noises over my mic at his request.
Oh boy, there's so much to talk about. First up, 2009 and a streaming site called Realm of the Bearded Beard. After getting his first taste of live streaming, Alex had some beef with an owner of said place known as Josh, aka The Big Dog. The latter really didn't like Alex for his attitude and questionable behavior, so he decided to get his nudes by asking one of then girls to catfish him by using his only weakness, kawaii anime voices.
Oni-chan!
So she joined his chat and pretended to be some Lolita Ultra Whip, which back in the day was more than enough for Alex to take a bait. After that, they exchanged Skype info, and according to her, he sounded differently, which can be blamed on age or old equipment. She wasn't able to get any news from him, but had him masturbate to her, saying in the most sickly sweet anime voice things like Timote or Ugu. But after a week, she decided that it was too much and quit. All of this was taken from a now deleted post on Tumblr from 2018, with the author posting these really old pictures of Alex as a proof. They also stated that it seems that Alex hasn't changed since, but it's far from the only time when he showed those tendencies. In one of the first Yandere simulator threads, he had this interaction with someone who posted their voice in the thread. Just 2 days after, he kept asking people for the sultry, sexy, mature voices, even though he had basically nothing to add those voices to. Just like 2 months after that, when he asked people to voice Yandere girl. I think it's obvious what he did with those.
It's time to get out the lube.
And even with all that aside, it seems that people had recollections about his request towards CSEFs during that time. Like in this 4chan thread made 3 whole years before her blog was even created.
Saw flat-chested girls as deformed, similar to an amputee.
It's not a secret, but just in case.
Yes,
Why do I like big boobs?
Pair of big old titties.
Rope busty schoolgirls.
Boobs.
Jiggles.
Am I the only one who just
subconsciously
subconsciously
sees boobs everywhere?
Today, I thought of boobs. The mind of a master.
Told another girl in chat that he would keep her in a cage and love her.
This is also not something unusual for Alex. Back on June 7th, 2015, he tweeted this. If you're wondering what this is a hentai game about a girl ranch. And of course it wasn't the only time. During the first year of quote-unquote development of Yandere Simulator, Alex actively pushed the idea of selling rivals to Eastern Europe with the help of Yakuza, using extremely graphic descriptions, almost like he enjoyed this idea a little too much. Before that, he was writing fanfiction about extremely submissive girl basically becoming a sex slave of his self-insert, which he finished the same year when he allegedly met CSEFs. Or about a woman in sexual slavery, and even though it doesn't glorify that act, still it is in a very poor taste. And even before that, he registered on a forum amv.org, where he said things like, "I prefer Ray because she's weak and submissive, and I would be able to do anything to her. Or, if I had a girl robot, I would make her my slave, not try to teach her about love." Also, Alex is not a stranger to publicly stating some really questionable stuff without even trying to pretend that it's a joke.
What clothing should you wear on your date? More like, after you've drugged your date and taken them back to your house and tied them up in your basement, what should you dress them in? Advice on getting a girlfriend? So easy. You just need a few simple items. Rope, duct tape, some chloroform, a really good alibi, a basement, and a good reason to lure her into your home. I want to throw Caroline into a meat grinder. I want to put Caroline in the wood chipper from Yandere simulator. I want to use a circular saw on Caroline. I want to take all of Caroline's fingernails off and make her eat them one by one.
He's got issues.
I didn't have the capacity or the emotional intelligence or experience to understand the creepiness of Eva instantly becoming obsessed with me when he discovered I was a girl.
According to witness accounts from 4chan made years before the creation of the blog, this behavior wasn't limited to just cisfs, and Alex would salivate over any girl in chat, even if the reality couldn't be further from that.
That means you're gay.
And some cases were way more severe, but more on that later.
I had a small epiphany one day when he was doing his homework on livestream. Statistics, I think. Some kind of math. I was an 8th grader but read on a college level and thought I had a pretty good understanding of the problem in his textbook that he was struggling with, based on the info he'd read aloud.
If all of this happened in February or March of 2009, like cisfs claims, it doesn't contradict reality. According to Alex's LinkedIn, he graduated from Santa Monica College in 2009, and even though he was studying 2D, 3D animation, it seems that his classes were not completely devoid of math, according to his Gaia account.
But when I tried to speak up and help him, he snapped at me. "You're just a kid.
You don't know what the fuck you're talking about! You dumbass!
I couldn't resist.
Alex has always been very hostile to children throughout the years, and on many platforms showed his annoyance because of loud, stupid children, and he still does it to this very day, even though they're basically the last people who care about this feature creep.
Let me put it this way. I, and plenty of others, have witnessed his rage issues. When he can't beat a video game, when someone criticizes him, etc., etc. I watched him destroy a controller once when he was raging at a game on stream.
Sadly, next to no videos were saved from that time. However, there are many witness accounts claiming that Alex had extremely short temper and had zero problems with destroying stuff on stream or banning people for the slight criticism or using words that he didn't like. All of this was perfectly reflected by the fan art he made and rules that he had. It looks familiar, doesn't it?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't.
There's also this old picture from Vida Revolution Wiki, but it can be just a joke. Also, someone from LA tried to edit out the embarrassing stuff from that page. I wonder who it was.
My main source of communication with Eva must have been either through MSN or the livestream chat. And though I had the MSN login information, it couldn't connect to the servers. I think they shut down a couple years ago.
Even though it doesn't prove much by itself, since many people used MSN back then, but yes, there are witness accounts of Alex using MSN back in the day, and later, one of the visitors of cisf's blog, who knew her back in the day, confirmed that too.
Although the mental image of Alex humping the corner of a mattress never does quite leave the mind. Every time I remember that, I want to go throw up.
Well, if that isn't figure of speech, it aligns perfectly with Alex's tendency for sticking his dick into inanimate objects.
What's that? You don't like girl girls.
Like and comment if you want a video about that too. All of this makes her story sound more realistic, but in the end it doesn't seem like much. However, cisfs wasn't the only person who could recall a lot of details about Alex from his Eva X Vida days. On May 6, 2020, a user of one New Zealand agricultural forum mentioned that he too was a regular on Eva X streams and confirmed everything from cisf's blog. By itself, it doesn't prove anything. However, that user recalled many other things, which some random person would have hard time knowing.
He openly acknowledged that she was his girlfriend on his stream.
Actually, there are accounts from 4chan recalling him having more than one, but more on that later.
She was indeed 14, and she was banned from the stream after she broke up with him. I believe he was 20 or 21 at the time.
This checks with cisf's testimony, and before you say, gosh, he could just take it from her blog, take a look at these witness accounts, made before the blog was created. Yeah, they recall her age slightly wrong, but the point doesn't change. Alex was, and I quote, e-dating an underage girl while he was in his 20s.
There was a girl named Abby who was older than him that he was overly obsessed, most likely because she was nice to him.
The mentions of Alex being obsessed with some girl named Abby who frequented his streams go as far as 2010, which is entire 7 years before the blog was created and 4 years before Yandere simulator. Just as mentions of Alex completely losing it over that girl, to the point of turning her into his e-slave and threatening her with
Jump.
unless she flies all the way to him. Never mind the fact that Siseps too mentioned that Alex was controlling to the comical extent.
There was a 16-year-old girl named Capuchan who would post links to her nudes openly in his chat and also send them to him privately.
Yes, there are multiple witness accounts of an underage girl named Capuchan not only posting her nudes on 4chan, but also doing it in chat of Eva Extreme. And again, years before the blog was created. Also notice how one Anno mentions her not being really his girlfriend, implying that Alex called someone else on his stream that word.
There was a 16-year-old British girl named Hexen Harlot who would also send him nudes.
Yes, her existence is beyond any doubt thanks to her LiveJournal blog. Although I have my doubts about her being underage at the time. Could be worse, I guess. Her presence on Eva Extremes back in the day is undeniable too, thanks to this forum post, where someone with her name mentions Alex streaming I Wanna Be the Guy all the way back in 2009. And of course there are witness accounts, even though it seems that she too sent her nudes to everyone.
I remember at the time his best friend was named Nebelim. He almost never spoke in chat, but Ava banned Nebelim from looking at Reddit because he wanted to send Nebelim funny links from there without Nebelim having seen them already.
And this, my dear viewers, is actually really strong evidence of this person being present during those events, because I can barely recall anyone else stating that Alex had a friend named Nebelim or Lord Nebelim. As you can see, it wasn't just his sock account. Furthermore, Alex had very productive year of 2005 when he made a trailer for a text-based Metroid RPG and wrote an outline of something called Babe or Busty Anime Babes etc., which he described on his Wikipedia profile. And who was mentioned in both of these? That's right, his friend Lord Nebelim. As for what happened to those projects, well…
Don't answer that. A rhetorical question.
Ava used to have a giant list of bannable offenses, like saying implying or cool story bro.
Yes, while Alex had a forum, he had no problems with banning people for saying those words, but his hatred toward the word implying was something else.
At some point, he was streaming anime on his movie channel, and another streamer on his channel decided to stream a game on his gaming channel. This was not Twitch. It was some other live streaming site which allowed for multiple people to stream from one channel. He freaked out that the guy was taking away attention from the anime and he banned the guy. That guy was named Kiefer's and he was pretty funny and well-liked. He made his own stream called Kiefer's Vidya, then it got renamed to something else that I forget. And most of Eva's audience once again left him.
Yes, according to another witness, this is exactly what happened, with an added flavor of Alex begging his viewers to stay and trying to buy a domain of Kiefer's website when that didn't work. After that, Alex had a follow in his emails, to the point where he stated that being in chat of his stream isn't right, it's a privilege. He melted down so hard that it seemed that he created a full-fledged debunk page. Otherwise, yes, Kiefer's video was a thing, around the time when people claim all of this happened.
I recall one time he had to go sit at the table to eat a dinner with his nephew. He came back to the stream fuming and cursing his mom's name. He explained that his mother didn't cut his steak for him, but cut his nephew's steak. So he was pissed he had to waste his time cutting his own steak and be AFK for longer than he liked. His nephew was a very small child, by the way.
Yes, there's at least one other witness account of this from way before the blog and Yandere simulator itself.
It's funny seeing Moschetti is still there. He was a pretty infamous pedo who posted Lolicon porn in Ava's chat all the time. I know Moschetti is an autistic British guy who is in his 30s. He used to talk about looking at his little sister's underage friends a lot.
Unsurprisingly, yes, this is true. Someone with that name was hanging out on 4chan around 2010 when all of this happened, and yes, it seemed that he was exactly what the witness states. And of course, it seemed that he was hanging out on EvaX streams during the day, and at one point stated this, but after he named himself, Anon immediately recalled some rather interesting parts of his biography.
Miserable f***ing degenerates.
By the way, he still can be found at a Steam group called Friends of Yandere Dev, which back in the day was called Eva Zephon's Bros.
The artwork of him is some fan art, drawn by an underage girl who used to visit the stream named Kelly. As far as I know, he didn't get any nudes from her. She would just pop in once in a while and act super shy and ugu, and he'd begin to fawn and tell her how cute she was.
Yes, Mountain Doomy isn't the only one who remembers her, just like he isn't the only one who remembers other girls. So what do we have? We have victim's account with a rather accurate description of Alex and his behavior. We have one witness who knows details that almost nobody else has ever brought up. And we have multiple anonymous users from 4chan stating the same things. Too much smoke for a fire that never happened, if you ask me. However, there is still one person who we need to listen to before we come to any conclusions. Have Alex ever addressed those allegations? Actually, yes, more than once. And ironically, this alone could bury him. The first time when Alex told his version of events dates back to August 29, 2011, just 2.5 years after the alleged incidents. It happened in a chat with a woman named Caitlin, who he met on OkCupid, and even though the sincerity and even genuineness of that person raises a lot of questions, Alex himself has never denied the veracity of those logs. All I can add is that supposed picture of Caitlin that she sent to Alex doesn't have any matches online, so it was probably made only for that occasion, but that's a story for another day. Back on topic. Like has been said already, on February 1st, 2015, volunteer 3D modeler Wonkolo announced on his Tumblr account that he is leaving the dev team behind Yandere simulator, and posted several links, among which was a pasta bin with Alex's logs with Caitlin. In turn, Alex reacted to them as old news and not fake information, so their authenticity is beyond any doubt. So what exactly did Alex tell about Sisevs back then?
Sisevs was a girl who flirted with me online. I flirted with her back. She seemed cool at first, but it turned out that she wasn't cool at all. She did a bunch of bad stuff, like she lied about her age, and she started a website to give people a place to say bad things about me, and her parents took away her internet privileges because she was taking nude pictures of herself and sending them out to people. She sent me her nude pictures, and she sent them to like 100 other people too. And somehow this means Evaxifon requests child pizza from minors. I deleted all of her photos as soon as I discovered that she had been lying about her age the whole time. She was not a good person at all, and I am very glad that I don't know her anymore.
What conclusions can we draw from this? She flirted with him and he flirted back, which means that he knew her and was probably romantically involved with her. She told that she was over 18, but she actually wasn't. She created some place where people could talk shit about Alex. She was taking nude pictures of herself and sending them to everyone. When her parents found out, they took her internet access away. As soon as Alex found out about her age, he deleted those. Funnily enough, even here Alex managed to lie, since old screenshots from her blog suggest that after that she had no problems with sending emails or hanging out in chat rooms. And if by started a website to give a place to say bad things about me he means Video Revolution, it's factually wrong, since it was started by a dude named Sage Seria. Sisev was just among people who left there, and to this day it's not clear if Alex dating her was the last straw or it just happened around that time. Also notice how Alex quotes someone about Eva Zephon requesting cheese pizza from teenagers, since it shows that it was common knowledge back then and people had no problems with accusing him directly. But still, let's use the rest of the details of this version as a base. He met some girl online, thought she was legal, was romantically involved with her, received nudes from her that she supposedly sent to everyone. Later found out that she was underage and immediately deleted those, while her got grounded for that. Sounds plausible, and even Sisev herself heard about his version of events.
I'm under the impression that his version of the story is as follows. I was some desperate girl who sent nudes unsolicited to everyone and anyone, and he deleted the disgusting pics and banned me as soon as he learned I was underage.
Well, yeah. If only he stopped there. 4 years later, volunteer 3D modeler Wonkolo lived...
Yes, get to the point!
Okay, you know the drill. And what did Alex say that time?
It's seriously screwed up that you linked to that old paste bin conversation. Not only is it about 5 years old, but it's about an underage girl sending me unsolicited nude pictures, followed by me deleting her pictures immediately after learning that she was lying about her age. How exactly does this make me look bad?
Suddenly, the part about him flirting with her and her flirting back goes out of the window. And before you say, well, maybe he just forgot to mention it, like the fact that she was sending those to everybody, he clearly says unsolicited, which usually means getting one from a complete stranger. Also, 5 years later, it automatically makes it okay? Really, Alex?
Most of these takes they're trying to use against me are older than Skyrim.
On May 24th, 2015, Alex decides to deal with the recent flack he was getting by posting better version of debunk page on his Tumblr blog, where he addressed him losing his spaghetti over harsh but fair criticism from Mike Z, him mistreating his volunteers, and most importantly, him, driving virtual candy van. And what did he say that time?
The second allegation is that I am a child solicitor and sex offender. These accusations are almost too silly to dignify with a response, but I'll respond nonetheless. About 6 years ago, I knew a young woman who did a lot of inappropriate things in order to get people to pay attention to her. One of the things she did was to send nude pictures of herself to lots of people. I was one of the people who she sent nude pictures to. Months later, I learned that she was actually too young to be doing that sort of thing. I deleted her pictures immediately, of course. To be perfectly clear, the pictures were unsolicited. I don't go around asking kids to send me nude pics.
Well, if you thought that I jumped to the conclusion with him dropping "we flirted" part, who's laughing now? The story doesn't change much from the previous time, however you can see how desperately he's trying to distance himself and make it look like she was just some random attention-hungry teenage girl who was sending her nude pictures like it was internet spam or something. But even after that, he managed to screw himself over, since the same day in his stream chat he said this.
I never said her age. I never actually said she was underage or under 18. I just said she was a young woman and inappropriate and too young to be doing that, which could mean anything.
Not only now he claimed that he didn't actually know if she was underage or not, which begs the question why he'd always stressed the part about deleting those pictures. Yes, he actually said that she was underage in a chat with Caitlyn and emailed to OneColor. And his mental gymnastic with "too young to be doing that" are just baffling. If someone sends their pictures after they turn 18, they aren't too young to do that, they're just stupid. But somehow, even that wasn't enough. Just 3 days later, Alex decided to drop all the pretense and go full "no, I debunked" to address the part about him working part-time as a Discord moderator. And believe it or not, it goes even better.
There once was a young woman on the internet who was desperate for attention and approval from others. She claimed to be over 18, although she certainly didn't act like it. She flirted with boys constantly, hoping that someone would tell her she was attractive or ask to be her boyfriend. One day, she sent out nude pictures of herself, hoping that it would make people like her. She definitely looked over 18. A few months later, she disappeared from the internet, and someone claimed to know the reason why. He claimed that the girl's parents learned that she was sending out nude photographs of herself and took away her computer. Most people drew the conclusion that she was probably underage, considering her immature behavior and her parents' reaction to her photographs. Nobody has heard from her in years, and there is no way for anyone to know how old she actually was or why she actually disappeared from the internet. The only thing anyone knows is that she claimed to be over 18, looked like she was 18, and that someone claimed that her parents took her computer away because of the nude photographs she took. Does any of that make anyone a pedophile?
I don't think so.
No, it was just some young woman posting somewhere her nudes to some people who then said that she probably disappeared from the internet because she was probably underage, but probably not. Holy shit, if you sneeze in the middle of the story, you can even forget that it has something to do with Alex. And this is how hard he tried even before the blog was made. As you can see, not only his version makes very little sense because it's now barely connected to him, it also contradicts his previous statements. But no, oh no, Alex wasn't done yet. On August 21st, 2020, he has this exchange in emails with some concerned fan, who once again asked him about the rumors, now directly linking Sisev's blog. And boy oh boy if Alex didn't disappoint. I am not going to play it in its entirety, only relevant parts, so just pause the video if you want to read the whole thing.
That dumb rumor has existed for years. I think it's easiest to explain this one in the form of a timeline. 1. The year is 2009, I have a video game stream. 2. A troll joins my stream's chat room and pretends to be a flirtatious girl. They are using the username Sisefs. At the time, I don't know whether or not it's a troll, but I'm skeptical of them. 3. After a few weeks, the troll private messages everyone in the chat room a bunch of nude photos of some girl, pretending that they are the girl in the photos. I have absolutely no idea who the girl in those photos actually was. I remember thinking that the girl looked at least 18. 4. Shortly afterwards, the troll gets tired of their stupid act and stops visiting the stream. 5. A few weeks later, somebody asks, "Whatever happened to that weird girl who sent us her nudes?" Someone theorizes maybe she stopped visiting the stream because she was underage and her parents took her computer away. 6. A bunch of people accept that theory as the truth and assume that the troll was a real underage girl. 7. I was skeptical of the troll from the beginning. I can't even recall whether or not I saved the nudes in the first place, but if I did, this is the part where I would have deleted whatever the troll sent. The year is 2010. Some weird people developed a grudge against me and began discussing ways to hurt me. One of them remembers the troll from 2009 and suggests the idea of trying to get me in trouble for possessing an underage girl's nudes, even though the troll wasn't even a girl and the nudes depicted someone who looked at least 18. 9. Someone hears about this and asks me, "Who is Sysefs and why are people claiming that you have a minor's nudes?" 10. I don't feel like typing out the entire story, so I summarize the situation with as few words as possible. I say something like, "A girl sent me her nudes. Later on, she turned out to be underage. I deleted whatever she sent me." 11. The year is 2014. Someone finds the chat log from 2010 and thinks that it is smoking gun evidence that I solicited nudes from a girl named Sysefs. It doesn't make sense to draw that conclusion, but they spread this false narrative anyway. 12. The year is 2015. Somebody decides to create a fake blog on Tumblr where they pretend they are the girl from 2009, even though the girl never existed and was actually just a troll pretending to be a girl. They make up lies and claim that they dated me in 2009. 13. The year is 2020. Weirdos on the internet are convinced that I'm a pedophile who dated a minor, even though nothing like that actually transpired. In short, no, that Tumblr blog is not operated by the real Sysefs, because Sysefs was a made-up identity in the first place. That Tumblr blog was created some random internet troll making up a story to create drama.
Remember how all of this was just a bitter misunderstanding with an attention-hungry underage girl who lied about her age and flirted with Alex? Yeah, screw that, now it was all gremlins. I'm surprised Alex didn't say that the same year when he released Hate and Shame. Not only it contradicts almost everything he said before, taking a closer look at the details only makes it even less credible. If Sysefs was a troll, why there are many mentions of her from different sources, and pictures of her, including one directed at Alex? Even though in his story Alex claimed that he was skeptical from the start, for some reason he told people that he deleted those, instead of, telling that it was all a troll or mentioning that she was totally 18, I swear. Also, it's funny how he talks about someone asking him about that, when the closest mention of it is his chat with Caitlyn, who can hardly be called someone, since he was personally involved with her for days and who he explicitly told an entirely different story. Or this someone is the person who found the chat in 2014? Yeah, even though again, Alex said entirely different thing in that chat, and later confirmed that it was all true. But don't worry though, this time Alex had some real hard-hitting evidence. First one is that the person behind the blog originally wrote "I like to hang out at Video Revolution stream" and then edited it to just Video stream, which from his POV means that this person is lying since his stream was called EvaX Video, not Video Revolution. This quote-unquote evidence was so good in fact that Alex's most loyal Sims echoed it.
Changed it and edited it on her own Tumblr, saying that she liked to watch his video streams.
Well, if the author of this blog didn't know what they were talking about, they would probably leave this fatal mistake until someone would openly call them out, right? But instead they fixed that mistake shortly after that, because anyone who actually knew him back in the day knows this, right? Also, that's very rich coming from a guy who couldn't even check when the blog was made, and thus fully destroyed his credibility according to his own standards.
I am not really a math guy,
The next argument is even better. The author of the blog claimed that Alex was 21 during those events. However, Alex's birthday is June 13th, 1988. Therefore, in February-March of 2009, he was 20. Jeez, talk about being desperate. This point has been brought up by his lackeys too. While yes, you can't deny that in that period of time Alex couldn't be 21, you can't say for certain if he didn't claim to be, because this is actually what he was doing just a year prior on the Gaia Online forums. So yeah, Alex, she said you were 21 because you probably told her that you were 21, that you could buy booze, drive a car and vote. And considering all the things mentioned in this part, who really can get their story straight, huh?
You're so full of shit. Even your eyes are brown.
There was some extra quote-unquote evidence from Alex's free janitor Cameron, and even though it's laughably bad, I will deal with it too, since there's no way Alex wasn't involved in this.
I've been able to reach out to someone who's been still friends with Yandere Dev since this happened, and they don't even recognize the name, but they were there for this. They remember Video Revolution in that stream, but they don't remember the name SysFs or any of the other names this person was using.
Well, that's strange to say the least. Why did this guy from Video Revolution write her name on his forehead then? Probably it was some other Sysef, yeah, right. And why Mountain Doomy remembers her among many other people from those days. And actually, you may know someone who claimed to remember her, namely Alex himself in his conversation with Caitlyn from 2011, even though he denies it now.
I even went as far as going to the Video Revolution channel, seeing their subscriptions, seeing their affiliates, and the person who claims to be SysF who commented on a meme video isn't affiliated with any of these people.
Indeed, because she wasn't a regular streamer, even though she streamed a couple of times when she borrowed a webcam from her friend. She was just a regular who was hanging out in stream chat with others, and it is easily proved by overabundance of different screenshots she posted afterwards.
I even went to the Steam group and they were clueless.
And you came to this conclusion because nobody actually replied to you even years after? Yeah, that's right, our boy Cameron went to a dead Steam group and decided that silence means yes.
I don't take this kind of thing lightly.
And if you had that conversation in your direct messages, then why don't you show it, just like the one with totally real VR regular who has no idea who Sysefs is? Well, what can I say, Cameron? You tried, even though it probably wasn't your idea. After this, Alex hasn't directly responded to those allegations, resorting to just calling every single negative thing about him an interpretation of some events. Hope I gave you enough information to interpret Alex and his behavior in a right way. But okay, even with all this evidence, I'm sure there's still people who think that maybe it was a troll and Alex couldn't figure it out back then and his versions of events are as consistent as a FPS count of Yandere Simulator because DevPy is so nice and cool. And for them, I have something that should end this idiocy once and for all.
Yes, one can hope.
You see, in her screenshots from the old days, Sysefs used different nickname that she censored because she used it in a couple of other places. But you can actually see that it starts with ST and ends with E, with L or D in the middle. It's not much, but to my surprise it was enough. In an archived page about streamers and regulars of Video Revolution, you can see someone named Standalone, which fits perfectly. But maybe some different person and screenshots were made about them. Yes, but as always, 4chan comes to the rescue, since in this thread, one Anon quotes Alex's version of events from 2011, and in the end casually calls her Standalone, while another user asks about her in another post. Basically, when they saw that Sysefs was mentioned, they immediately called her Standalone, like they are the same person or something. And of course, this happened way before the blog creation, so it cannot be attributed to some trolls. It was a common knowledge among the people who were familiar with EvaX Vida. Funny that Alex, who clearly was in the same thread, didn't call those damn gremlins on their lies. But maybe it's other person and 4chan is just wrong and they hate Alex and they are bad. Okay, what about this then? On January 22nd, 2020, someone calling himself B-Star contacted the owner of the blog and told that he still had something called Protoman Edit. The owner of the blog recognized him and later posted this picture that he sent, signing it as B-Star Protostrand. Even though it is clearly old and of bad quality, you can easily see the resemblance between the girl in that picture and the girl from the pictures that the owner posted in the blog. Firstly, the same page that had Standalone alias listed someone called Brony Stark or B-Stark for short among the streamers. He can also be seen on one of the older screenshots in one of the chats. Secondly, in a blog and an older email, Sysef said that she's a fan of the band Protoman, who play music based on Mega Man series soundtrack. So the name Protostrand comes from the combination of Protoman and Standalone. And thirdly, of freaking course, the final nail comes from the 4chan, where someone made a thread about Alex, and another user posted some picture called protestant.jpg. Sadly, it didn't archive, but it had the exact same resolution of 461 by 576 and a little smaller file size, so we can assume it was that picture. Another user immediately recognizes CSEFs on that picture, and it cannot be blamed on the blog because it happened 3 years before it was created, and the whole 6 years before that picture was posted there. So yes, someone saw a picture of the girl who was calling herself Standalone and recognized her as CSEFs, which means that Standalone is CSEFs, and other people from LAX Video days remember her. But what if... Oh, for God's sake, I regret using this joke. Okay, if there are still some people who aren't convinced that CSEFs is a real person and that she is telling the truth, just look at this Reddit account, coincidentally named Standalone. Not only it had pictures of the same girl who never existed, that were posted years later on the blog, and other pictures where she looks older even though she never existed. It also had this post, which basically told what happened, and I still cannot believe that no one else stumbled upon this before. And surprise, surprise, the account was created years before someone created a fake blog on Tumblr, etc. Furthermore, I was able to get in contact with her and inform her on how to better hide her identity. No, I won't tell her real name, and no, I do not suggest you to bother her. I'm strongly against it. If you do that, the consequences will be solely on you. You have been warned. All I can say is that she seems to be doing fine, and that she's too busy with her adult life to bring Alex to responsibility for his actions. However, she did not forgive him, and this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. After all,
we can't expect God to do all the work.
See, the right opinion. It wasn't that hard, was it? I didn't even need $1,000 a month on Patreon to do some minor research.
There's no verifiable physical proof.
Ow! I think that pretty much settles it. Yes, CSEFs is a real person. Yes, she was a regular on LAX Video and Video Revolution streams. Yes, Alex was having a relationship with her and made her participate in sexually charged activities. Yes, Alex was soliciting nudes from her and other underage girls, and many different people brought that up throughout the years. And yes, Alex was lying about it for years, coming up with a new version every time when he got pressured to talk about it. Allegedly, of course. If you still think that all of this evidence is a work of some troll group that's been trying to ruin Alex for over a decade, or all of this is just a coincidence, then even Alex's PC full of illegal pictures won't be enough to change your mind. I'm simply not certified to help you.
You are so in denial! You need therapy!
I hope I have reduced your doubts, at least to almost none after those. Oh god, took way longer than I expected. But you may ask, okay, Alex did a horrible thing, but what does it have to do with Yandere Simulator? And my answer is...
I'm just getting started.
But even after all of that, I'm sure there are still people who would say that it probably was the one time and Alex is probably sorry, even though he's obviously not and has never been. And otherwise he's a normal guy and doesn't have a history of questionable statements and creepy interactions with minors since the day when he has stopped being one of them, right?
No, it's false. No way. Not a chance. You're wrong.
2006 can be considered as a starting point, since at the time Alex was a regular poster on a forum dedicated to a webcomic called The Losers, where he posted some highly controversial opinions about different topics, but that's not the point of this video. Back then he had a crush on a girl named Amy who he visited driving lessons with, but there was one minor, no pun intended, detail. She was 16 years old, while Alex was already 18. By no means it is something illegal by California laws, and it's just a 2-year gap, nothing special for teenagers. The thing is that Alex kept getting older, however his preferences didn't, since he described the girl of his dreams as youthful, babyish, feminine, innocent, naive, childlike, pure, uncomplicated, and sophisticated, trusting, charming, polite, pleasant, sweet, lovable, cute, cypher, malleable. And it shows that he didn't betray those ideals afterwards.
I get older, they stay the same age.
And just by sheer coincidence, back in 2006, someone with his usual nickname asked advice about dealing with
youthful, babyish, childlike, malleable,
underage girl in a very obscure video game called Communicate Strike.
Does any of that make anyone a pet?
But of course it couldn't be Alex, since at the time he despised pornography on Losers Forum, so the trolls probably were hell-bent on ruining him even back then. The next case comes from another notable place of Alex's early internet history, namely forums of a browser game called Gaia Online. Even if you have no idea what this is, you've probably seen this image, and this is exactly where it comes from. Furthermore, Alex tried to bury forums with threads like these back in the day, but again, that's a story for another time. I just like to point out that Alex's personal life, or rather lack of one, was 99% of his posting history on these forums. And among those, Alex had a particularly interesting one on June 28, 2008, where he asked users to rate his moves towards one girl on MySpace, but surprisingly, the reaction to that was overwhelmingly negative. Why, you may ask? Well, because this girl was a high schooler, and judging by her photo, probably on her first year, while Alex was mere days from turning 20. Not to mention that Alex was absolutely oblivious why people called him out on that and kept salivating over her right there. I've already extensively talked about one thing that did not happen in around 6 months after that, since actually, Alex was 20, not 21, but with those events in mind, it comes off as even less surprising. Then, on April 24, 2010, Alex joined a news website/blog aggregator called Examiner.com, where he wrote articles, which is pumped to be just like his streams by the way, that in short can be only described as
I can't control my horny level.
And there is no point in going over every single archived article that he wrote, but there are a couple of them that I like to show since they are very, very relevant.
That last girl is noticeably different from the rest. She's in her underwear instead of a swimsuit. She's a mere schoolgirl and can't qualify as a babe due to being underage and underdeveloped. One of the primary characters in Peace Walker is a 16-year-old Costa Rican schoolgirl by the name of Paz Ortega Andrade. Although there is much more to her than meets the eye, further details will be spared so as to not spoil the surprises. Exactly how much of Paz does meet the eye? Almost all of her. In the very first cutscene that the schoolgirl is introduced, the player is given the ability to view her undergarments simply by zooming into her portrait. However, if she is groped more than once, she will flee from the main character, instantly ending the mission. The heart of a young woman is fickle indeed. 16 may be the age of consent in Japan, but in Costa Rica, it's 18. The premise of the game is to hunt for witches by searching for witch marks on the bodies of suspicious females aged 12 to 23. Maho Akai, 14 years old, is far more developed than most girls her age. Unfortunately, real Japanese schoolgirls do not look anything like the schoolgirls of Galgun. Nothing could make a man more happy than being surrounded by dozens of attractive teenage girls that all feel unconditional love for him.
By the way, Alex loved this game so much that he even streamed it with this colorful advertisement.
Love little girls, love little giving organs, then watch me knock girls out while shooting them with my love arrow in Galgun. A glorious Japanese video game from Japan at my stream. Features 16-year-old girls with bouncing double D cup breasts who wear tight, revealing clothing. A remarkable number of Japanese games feature minors that become involved in sexual situations, but are not outright pornography. Dimensions pushed the boundaries of acceptability by featuring 16-year-old girls with jiggling DD breasts, striking provocative poses. Last, but certainly not least, little 12-year-old Sherry Birkin from Resident Evil 2 is all grown up in Resident Evil 6.
That was close.
And, during only one chapter of the game, is showing off her new curves in a hospital gown that leaves very little to the imagination.
I can't believe you've done this.
Additionally, players can unlock Sherry's original schoolgirl uniform and watch her try to fit an adult woman's body into an outfit made for a little girl.
Hey, stop!
Other game developers look at a touchscreen interface and see the potential for molesting underage anime girls.
Stop! No! Just stop it!
In that game, there was a clear reason for why the player was molesting underage girls.
Stop saying that!
But as of this writing, the objective of Touch Trouble Time is unclear.
This is not okay.
To Love Rue Darkness, Battle Ecstasy features a mini-game where the player is encouraged to fondle underage girls. Last month, they announced their latest perverted and voyeuristic game, Natsuhiro High School Seishun Hakusho. Players will take control of a male high school student, whose activities range from taking panty shots to delivering items to people around the island. A game about underage girls completely devoid of clothing would be given the equivalent of an adults-only rating and would never be allowed on store shelves. So D3 Publisher did the next best thing and put its characters into the smallest possible outfits, micro bikinis.
And if you think that his views changed after he got some moderate success with Yandere Simulator, think again. On January 25, 2016, Alex had another round of proto-debunks on his Tumblr, where he tried his best to defend himself from accusations against him and his game, with such marvelous talking points as:
First of all, there are no sexual situations visible anywhere in the game.
Oh boy, more on that later.
Second of all, age of consent is different everywhere in the world. In some countries it's as high as 20, in other countries it's as low as 9.
This is a strange argument for a game made in United States by a United States citizen.
I attempted to explain that it's pointless to assign an age to a fictional character because fictional characters can be clones, vampires, robots, or any other type of character whose age doesn't reflect their physical appearance. I pointed out that when it comes to fictional characters, ages are completely arbitrary.
Yeah, they're totally 1,000-years-old vampires who are visiting school and dressed like that. But don't worry, it will get dumber.
At this point in time, I asked her why she demonized pedophiles. A person does not choose their sexual orientation. Sexual preference is not a choice. No person chooses to become a pedophile.
Is an unchangeable sexual orientation, just like, for example, heterosexuality.
I pointed out that there are many people under the age of 18 who have had experiences without being traumatized. I pointed out that some people aren't ready for sex even after age 18.
Not going to bother, already done.
Despite not mentioning anyone below the age of 18, they do conclude that younger age groups are significantly more likely to say they should have waited longer.
I attempted to propose the idea of finding another way to determine whether or not someone is ready for sex, such as passing a test that grants a sex license.
You all probably heard about this.
So let's just imagine a situation with two people, they're both the same age, they're both teenagers. In this situation, both people have about as much power as each other. Neither of them really know much more than the other person. Everything's very safe. It's in a controlled environment, so to speak. Now, let's take that, remove one of them, and then add a 30-year-old who can totally take advantage of the other person because there is now an insane power dynamic in his favor. Holy shit, what a great idea.
Ian interpreted this as evidence that I'm a pedophile. Actually, throughout our entire conversation, she interpreted literally every statement I made as evidence that I'm a pedophile.
Yeah, I wonder why. So, there's absolutely no surprise that his views affect the game on a far bigger scale that you could think of. Remember his article on bullet girls? Well, Alex didn't forget about it too, and wanted to add the same torture mechanics. The only thing that stopped him is that it would require effort and experience. Remember volunteer Wunkolo who left the Yandere Simulator team?
Hey Dad, you told us!
In one of his posts he stated, he started sending me reference from a bunch of porn games like Artificial Academy and requested models involving panties and shit. And of course, turns out that Alex is no stranger to playing Artificial Academy either. Remember how he found over Natsuhiro High School? You know, that game that Alex used as a reference multiple times in his videos?
Even though I haven't been writing code, I've been receiving character designs, new models, new animations, planning story events, establishing rules, gathering reference footage.
The one that he openly stated he was afraid of because it would blow Yandere Simulator out of the water. The game that is so different that at some point Alex tried to add an entire town because Natsuhiro High School had one.
You can now ride a bike around a simple town environment.
Yeah, somehow Yandere Simulator isn't a fetish game or something like that, even though it was heavily inspired by one.
Yeah, right.
And speaking of things that Alex said on 4chan, nurse, teacher, and senpai sister were his idea, and he spent dozens of threads using those as selling points of his future game. Multiple times he stated that nurse will prey on students. He didn't reserve himself from stating that school teacher will do the same thing too. And as for senpai's sister, take a look for yourself. I am not reading this dirt.
Look, she's totally asking for it. What? Will you listen to yourself?
Some of you may say, but it was at early stages of the development, it's different now.
Guess what? Wrong.
Well, Alex wasted no time and kept defending Predator teacher as a trope called forbidden love and telling that she won't be taken to the police because it's okay, I guess. As for senpai's sister, Alex keeps it as, oh, she just too clingy and doesn't want her brother to have a girlfriend. But occasionally he has little slips like this one.
Otherwise, every rival would feel identical.
And to be fair, it's not like Alex gave up on many ideas that he had in early days, like selling underage girls to Yakuza for some very disturbing and colorful stuff that will totally not get this video age restricted. And guess what? It's now in the game.
Afterwards, her organs would be harvested and sold on the black market. Or perhaps she would be smuggled to an Eastern European country, where she would meet a very morbid fate.
Or what about those totally not fetish uniforms that weren't his idea but were heavily promoted by him? Yep, he tried to add them anyway, even before anything meaningful like a functioning school. Or what about a place to torture kidnapped girls? Made its way into the game back in 2015 and is still there. And don't even ask me about all the stuff that he promised to A-chan. But there's also one very little elephant in the room, which is older than any playable build of the game. You see, characters in the game are obviously school children, meaning that most likely they are underage. In better days, Alex used, well, they're seniors, most of them are 18 excuse. Or the usual blanket of, all the characters are 18 even if otherwise is specified. The problem is that yeah, it was specified in the game that there are first, second and third year classes, which according to Japanese school system means that most of the students cannot be 18. But what is way worse, it's been specified multiple times by Alex himself in the early threads that students were underage, meaning that none of them is 18, not a single one. And even though that maybe this excuse works well for Yandere Simulator's fanbase, because they're even younger, for some reason Alex wasn't able to fool neither Reddit nor Twitch, which happened right after he stated this in his interview with Vice. Yeah, suddenly all those years of defending panty shots get a really dark turn, don't you think? Alex obviously knows that those are merely excuses that don't hold any water. So in the end, he came up with a brilliant idea, which belongs on the same page with she's 2000 years old vampire dragon alien, I swear. In a desperate attempt to get his game unbanned, Alex left hints that the school is not a school at all. It's just a LARP camp for people who miss school, and this is why they dress like students, go to classes, visit clubs, get bullied, go on a date with an older man to get the money their family needs instead, I don't know, getting a job or something, or get punished for misbehaviors. But otherwise, they're totally legal. I'm not going to go into the number of places it absolutely destroys established lore. And no, it's not just another way to add some mentally challenged exposition to the plot, when Alex himself admits that it's just another attempt to bypass censorship on Twitch. So in the end, we have a bunch of totally not underage, I swear, I mean look at them, it says they're all 18, high schoolers getting graphically disposed of, or in situation with adults that can get you into
moving pretty quick there, why don't you have a seat right over there?
Scenario. I'm not even talking about the original way to get favors in the game, which Alex desperately tried to cover for years afterwards. Speaking of which, the protagonist, who is a second-year student and again cannot be 18, was almost exposed to the genius game design of showing her underwear right into the player's face. I mean, Alex spent enough time adding all of those undies into the game, so of course he wants you to see them in all their glory. It didn't make it into the game thanks to very vocal 11%, or rather Alex's lack of technical skill, since later backlash didn't stop him from badly ripping off Yakuza series. Although in the end he managed to come up with something that was somehow even worse. But when Alex doesn't do something inappropriate with his characters in his game, he does it in the games of other people. In 2016, Alex announced a collaboration between his game and the game called Crush Crush, which looked innocent enough at first, since it was simply a dating sim without anything 18+. Well, until they released an uncensored DLC, which gives you access to lingerie, birthday suits, pin-ups, and of course adult scenes. Alex, who's never been a stranger to something like this, of course couldn't miss the opportunity to be inappropriate with his own underage protagonist, and probably left a good review on Steam.
I made you, and I can you.
But he didn't stop there, and in 2017 agreed to add Ayano to a strip poker game. In fact, he was so enthusiastic about it that he got in contact with its creator and even gave some rather questionable suggestions, including voice lines for the protagonist. Then, in 2020, characters from the game appeared in a hentai game project Cutie, and something called
Boobs in the City.
So Yandere Simulator is not a fetish game, but its only known collaborations are with something like this?
Really makes you think.
So, I think the ages of the characters in the game are out of the question. But what about people who are playing it? Well, just like in a previous case, Alex likes to pretend that most of his audience is mature adults, when reality hints in a completely opposite direction. During another round of YouTube making lives of everyone on their platform even more miserable, Alex, like many other creators, released a video where he said that his channel is not for children, and then reassured himself that most of his audience are adults anyway by showing this graph from his YouTube analytics. And why would anyone doubt that? I mean, there are literally no benefits from setting your age above 18 on YouTube. You know, besides watching age-restricted content, which at this point can be attributed to 90% of the videos from Alex's channel. But since Alex likes statistics, let's take a look at this piece of data. This is an archive of 2 polls he made back in 2015. The first one was called "How old are you?" And even there, Alex found a way to manipulate things. Since instead of having options like 16, 80 and 18 and more, it was 16 to 20, so there is hard to tell how many of the people who voted for that are actually under the age of 18. However, even if we split them 50 by 50, the picture wasn't very good. Almost half of his fans were underage, and only 26% could be considered adults for certain, if they didn't lie about their ages either. The other poll was "What is your gender?" and unsurprisingly, almost half of the participants were females. He posted same polls next year and the situation wasn't much better. Now, with even more participants and the same bullshit tactics, only 13% of the voters could be considered adults for sure, while 51% were from 11 to 15 years old. And now, half of his fans were female. Later, Alex justified his portrayal as a cute anime girl in Hate and Shame by saying, "Most of my audience is female, so at the very least, this part has been confirmed by him." But to be fair, he has a hard time hiding the other part too. Yeah, it was a long time ago. Since then, his fanbase has grown up, which is pretty much inevitable after all those years.
That's time you'll never get.
But seriously though, do you really want to tell me that Alex's adult fanbase couldn't deal with the simple email instructions for over 2 years, thus putting him on the verge of a complete and utter meltdown?
Please stop sending me stupid emails.
Why would he put so much emphasis on bad art and 3D models that people kept sending him and require professional level quality, for free of course, if the people who didn't get this and contacted him anyway were very far and few in between?
When was the last time you saw a video game with artwork that looked like this?
Okay, as it turns out, that example was a recolor, so there was probably nothing of sorts, and he was just too afraid to receive something like this. Or did he? Okay, that's enough! Oh god, they're still coming. Okay, maybe those are from 2015. Oh no. Oh boy, those 15% are everywhere. Keep in mind that the statistic from Alex's video and the contest were just a year apart, so it only confirms what I already stated. And maybe it's just me, but I have a hard time believing that 35-55 demographic is interested in never-ending development of a game about children reenacting music video for Die Slow by Hells at their school.
What was the biggest lie you were told?
the majority of my audience is composed of adults.
Unless they're the type of people who should never be mixed with children in any capacity. Unsurprisingly, the fanbase, consisting almost entirely out of impressionable children, has next to zero problems in defending such things as mature women seducing a young boy, or forcing yourself on someone, or even selling people into slavery of all sorts. As you may have guessed, they have even easier time defending panty shots, or the graphic contents of the game. There are just too many of those, I can't even show you everything I've found. Even universally disliked idea of Ayano killing a cat had its fair share of defenders, for God's sake. But sadly, by defending the contents of the game, namely ages of the characters who perform all the questionable stuff, even if it happens in other games of more adult direction, fans of the game slowly move into very dark territory of questioning all these ideas in real life, including parodying Alex's idea of license for sex. And then it goes even further when they go for "it's okay unless you're hurting someone," while some of them think exactly about hurting someone, just like Yandere. Of course, some of them don't need any influence and just bring their terrible views to the perfect soil, like someone named Dreamed Car Gaming, or Dreamed Car 1, who is not only a hardcore defender of Alex, but is also someone who calls himself a map. It has absolutely nothing to do with terrain images. It is way worse. When he doesn't spend his time defending Alex on his subreddit, he tweets about such marvelous things like the ones you can see on your screen right now. Some of them are straight from Alex's mouth. But Alex has no control over people who are attaching himself to his fan base. Yeah, no, he does, considering his love for censorship. But do you know what he has a full control over?
Or at least almost full control according to his own statements.
His own actions, like using edited image from one incredibly unholy manga. I'm not even going to touch upon the contents of that abomination. Just take a brief look at the text from that filth. Or going around and liking not safe for work fan art. I mean, maybe he just wanted to praise his fans and show them his appreciation, right? Right? Or him acting like this.
Texty, how sexy do you think it would be if she zipped down those zippers? Imagine the unzippage. Oh, imagine it.
And Tamaki is 17 years old, by the way, but we've already established that Alex doesn't care. But you know who is even younger?
I'll miss you. I'll miss all of you sweet little kittens.
What is wrong with you?
Sure thing it was only one time. Also, one little thing that Alex had absolute control over was the art contest that he held back in 2015. You know, the one where he told his fanbase, which as we already established cannot consist of mature adults, to draw a protagonist of the game who cannot be 18 either, as Quiet from Metal Gear Solid 5. If you have no idea who this is, Alex was kind enough to leave those tasteful references. Yeah, I think you can see a problem with that bright idea. And boy oh boy if his fanbase didn't disappoint. Some of the contributions were so borderline not safe for work that I'm not even sure that I can show them here. And Alex's comments about those were sometimes so questionable that I'm surprised that nobody tried to call him out all those years ago. The contest in 2021 wasn't much better either, since not only he had a ton of drawings with minors and questionable situations without an appropriate tag, it was flooded with gore that had clearly been drawn by children, and you should be able to tell that from one single look at it.
Where the are your parents? Who are your parents? I'm gonna call Child Protective Services. It's time to stop!
But at least Alex had no ability to censor this one, and it finally led to some quality submissions. And what's worse, it seems that behind closed doors, or at Lightation, Alex's behavior gets even creepier. Back in 2015, one ex-volunteer claimed in a 4chan post that people were leaving the team in droves because they either find out about his past activities or were creeped out by his behavior. Okay, if you don't like this, here's another one from a place of New Zealand enjoyers. The author stated that Alex immediately asked for the incredibly lewd stuff instead of, I don't know, something that would push his game a little closer to the release window.
There's no such thing.
And if even this wasn't enough, good old Wunkolo gave a longer answer about why he left Yandere Simulator team.
Well, that's just as fascinating as the first 89 times you told me that.
Back in 2017, which boiled down to, he asked me to create lewd assets non-stop while using adult games as references, and acted extremely creepy and thirsty on his secret streams.
Look at that butt. Look at that butt. There's a guy in a factory and his entire job is to spend all day long polishing and butts. He polishes them with his tongue. And his name is Yandere, Dev.
Which I can believe, since Alex hasn't changed at all.
What's this? There appears to be a wet spot on your panties. Oh my, is someone aroused? You're a dirty, naughty little chat room, aren't you? A perverted little chat room. You've been thinking dirty thoughts the entire time I've been streaming, haven't you? How very naughty of you. You're a bad, bad chat. You need to be punished. You need to be spanked. You need to be taught who your daddy is.
But that also raises another question. If Alex creeped out so many people by his behavior, then who's been working on Yandere Simulator since? And the answer to that question comes from none other than Wunkolo himself.
Say
Wunkolo
again, I dare you, I double dare you, mother...
Again, in his posts from 2015 and 2017, he quotes parts of Alex's email that he sent to him after he left Yandere Simulator team, and those were enlightening.
The GUI artist I'm working with is the same man who suggested female students should be able to wear thong uniforms. The musician I'm working with spends hours in my stream every day, and he makes even more lewd comments about female game characters than I do. The voice actress I'm working with has extremely lewd voices in her demo reel. The 2D artist I'm working with regularly draws women in extremely lewd outfits. The 3D character modeler I'm working with enjoys modeling sexy young women very much. I'm a perverted sexual deviant, and I absolutely love to perv on sexy video game girls and anime girls. That's a core part of who I am, and I'll openly, publicly, and eagerly state that fact absolutely anywhere. If lewd, sexual, perverted content and comments offend you, and you'd rather not be associated with that kind of project, I understand completely, and I can't hold a grudge against you for that. It simply means that I need to seek out team members who aren't bothered by that type of content, or those types of remarks. I've already found 5 other perverts, now I just need to find one who can model props and environments, and doesn't care what I did 5 years ago.
Speaking of a man named responsible for this official art of Senpai's sister, which Alex gladly used in every thread while strongly hinting that it's not going to be just a clingy sister who wants her brother to stay single. Way worse than that. He also mentioned that their relationship weren't purely professional, and you know from Wunkolo what exactly does this mean. And speaking of artists, Alex was perfectly fine with people like Koumi Senpai and Kiech working for him. First was behind male rival concept arts that he used in April's Fool's video, but aside from that she made... well... oh god. Oh god.
This area must be cleansed with orbital fire!
Kiech not only made concept arts for regular rivals that Alex used in the introduction video, but also was the man behind almost every character image on the game's website, even though he admits that quite a bit of work was already done by EA. And it wouldn't be the problem if not for the fact that you can clearly see the influence of his other works in them, especially in the upper section, even in those that were shelved in the end. Not to mention that all of this had to be approved by Alex to be published there, if not directly told to be drawn this way. But those two came and went, or not really, since Alex gave Cool Me a shoutout in 2020, while one other artist has been by Alex's side for all those years. I'm talking about Mulberry, and what happened boggles me to this day. You see, back in 2018, in the height of the Special Olympics called I Can Make Yandere Simulator But Good, there was one project called Limerence. It had a much smaller scope, since it was planned to be a visual novel, and it had many themes that would have pleased Tumblr and Twitter crowds. But surprise, surprise, it went nowhere and died. But what is interesting is how it died. It seems that one of Alex's volunteers infiltrated the dev team and leaked design documents. It was bad by itself, but what Mulberry allegedly did afterwards was something else. According to witness accounts, she drew the protagonist in some not safe for work situation with Limerence written on her hip. The problem was that this character was underage. When she was told about that, she said that it was her original character and that she had no idea what Limerence was. Luckily for our eyes, there are no traces of this art left, just people's recollection, but still, no matter if she did it out of her own volition or because Alex has asked her, it raises so many questions, especially if you take into account that she had no problems with either drawing boobs for Alex to please him or draw him with boobs because he asked to. Unsurprisingly, Mulberry has been seen hanging out with fetish artists, one of which turned out to be way closer to Yandere Simulator than I thought. Meet Nitropunk Arts, or Scream Punk Arts, or Dream Punk Arts, or Rins, or Rinsatsu, or Rinchan. All of them. Everyone! I will call you Nitropunk, who is credited as a voice behind Musume's father, if it even means something by this point, and contributes some Yandere Simulator related art from time to time. What art? Well, I will let site's description to speak for itself.
Damsel in distress. Bondage art with a kidnapping, peril theme, as opposed to a strictly sex BDSM theme. All fictional characters portrayed here are aged 18 or older, even if otherwise specified or implied, in compliance with all applicable laws. All acts depicted are fictional scenarios and are of a consensual nature.
And the account's description from 2021's art contest.
Call me Rin. I'm a small Anglo-Franco artist specializing in adult art. Most of it contains foot fetish, tickling, / bondage. It did themes. For a mature, open-minded audience, 18 plus only.
Is this why none of that 18 plus art for mature, open-minded audience only had no mature tag on that contest full of children? But that's not the only Yandere Simulator related thing Nitropunk had in the works. You see, back in 2018 there was an announcement about a visual novel called Triple Treat that had character Asana Najimi from aforementioned game as a guest appearance. Nothing wrong with that, right? Nothing wrong with that, right? Well, you know where it's going by this point. Not something you would like to see an underage character taking part in, if you ask me. What was the reasoning behind making something like this? To quote the author, to show those
prudes who turn their noses up at body parts and consensual acts between adults.
Adults. Oh! Now you fucked up!
Which is absolutely unsurprising for someone who retweets something like this and considers this guy of all people an inspiration. But I think you can guess what he's famous for.
But what would finally catch the attention of the public and eventually get Shadman into legal trouble was his depiction of Daphne Keene after her role as X-23 in the film Logan. On January 24th, 2017, leaked Discord messages from Shadman showed him posting set photos of Daphne Keene, captioning her as being molested and calling her an IRL lolly after watching interviews of her. More messages from the 6th of March show Shad stating that he'll be rewatching the film alone so that he can once again see his girl, Daphne Keene. While some have shed doubt on the veracity of these messages, it's hard to believe they're not real. And only 3 days later, Shad posted an 8-image set of the actress being brutally molested on his website. She is depicted severely beaten, scarred, and covered in urine. At the time, she was only 12.
Luckily for us, it went as far as Yandere Simulator in its development, and it will probably stay that way forever. Guess those $100 didn't attract much audience, did they? And those tasteful arts get posted on Alex's subreddit, where he and his free janitors have no problems with fawning over them. One of the participants of this wonderful Reddit moment is Alex's free janitor known as a Dolphin, and she has really perplexing views on not safe for work art. I am not even going to point out characters' ages anymore, you know that, and those people simply don't care. A dolphin doesn't care so much, in fact, that she allowed her little child to play Yandere simulator, since, and I quote, it's like Sims. Also, she thinks that children as young as 6 or 10 can play Yandere simulator. Do not worry though, only under supervision and only with some Easter eggs. It's completely safe and not just one button push away from a future Reddit thread about a childhood trauma.
Yandere Simulator is for mature audiences only.
I've already briefly mentioned Cleveland Rock and Cameron F305, but their only sins were staying loyal to Alex and being retarded! Which doesn't mean that Alex doesn't have other undesirables in his circles who contribute nothing besides cringe and eye bleed. And this. Yep, just a guy named Canuti in his chat proudly informing his peers that he bought a toy that's not intended for children, but he specifically stresses out that it is directly related to them. He also notes that this thing is almost like a part of something bigger, through which he and Alex can bond really hard. Also, remember Mosheri? You know, that guy from Eva X Video days who even 4chan called out on his degeneracy? Well, guess those days aren't really over, since there he is, hanging out in Alex's chat in 2020. So yeah, maybe Alex has no control over people who choose to play his game, but he has absolute control over choosing his entourage, and this is who he surrounds himself with. And by that point, you must know that there's only one way to make it all much, much worse. Like many other creators these days, Alex has a server in a wretched hive of scum and villainy known as Discord. And to be perfectly honest, that's unsurprising since he and his crew perfectly blend in. Alex's behavior there is exactly the same as it is outside of it.
No, seriously, what the f is actually wrong with you?
Or maybe even worse at some times.
No, I said kiddie porn, like with kittens.
And to the surprise of absolutely no one, it is full of children. Look! They don't even try to hide that fact!
Look at this! Look! 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 What the f is this?
Bloody parenting these days, I swear to God. In the crudest twists of irony, some of them are even in the moderation team. In fact, there are so many children that Alex basically gave up, uses the excuse of, well, they pressed join when they joined here, hides behind Discord terms of service instead of applying age policy in the rules of his own server.
Take your own goddamn advice.
And bans only those who act too childish, even for the typical fan of Yandere Simulator.
No children should be playing the game.
At this point, other mods and Alex himself don't give a crap when they state this right in front of them. And this is while he's still annoyed by this state of things. I swear to God, this is email situation all over again.
The majority of my audience is composed of adults.
Hell, he had this girl on his friends list despite her claiming to be 10. That's right, a man in his 30s hanging out with a bunch of teenagers half his age. Classy. And just like Alex, many of its users spend their time defending the most questionable aspects of Yandere Simulator, like teacher being a child predator, with the exact same quote-unquote arguments that Alex used in the past. Oh god, they even have a bot that's spewing the same crap about character ages, with the help of a dolphin who goes as far as spewing this nonsense. It went so far that they even have a rule against discussing the age of the characters. But when they do not defend this, they have extremely cursed conversations. Extremely freaking cursed conversations, while admitting that they are underage. If you still don't believe me and think those are just isolated incidents, in 2022 there was another leak from an ex-volunteer named Princess Di, and aside of the stuff like art theft, unprofessionalism, vile attitude, and terrible management, which is like drinking milk and getting mustache when you work for Alex.
Milk drinker.
There was one part that is 100% relevant to the topic of the video. Quote,
"An unhealthy 33-year-old with a brain fried by anime obviously isn't going to attract the best fan base. Active members of his server include minors making pornography with my assets after being told not to ever do that, moderators breaking rules to express their fetishes to an audience of minors, and so on, moderators drawing and posting incest in art chat, then banning me for saying it's disgusting to force people to see that stuff. Members, all of which are under 18, posting they made with my assets."
Unquote. And I can easily believe that, thanks to the stuff I've already shown, and the fact that Dreamcar and Nitropunk have no problems with hanging out there, with the latter salivating over characters, albeit under tense alias. Now with an excuse different from, they are 18 and totally consent to this, for some reason. Guess that Discord server isn't much different from other places where the fans of the game congregate. There were many other examples of underage users doing something like this, and sadly, this is just the tip of the iceberg, since it's only the visible part and a lot more can be happening in the direct messages of channel's participants, judging by a couple of excerpts from there. Although, in their defense, no wonder they thought it was okay, since it's not like the moderation team, namely one moderator who spends all her time there bringing to life Alex's beloved female archetype from anime, and certain someone who is very tired by his server being overwhelmed with children. It's not like any of them are behaving any better. And it was just a matter of time until this unhealthy environment combined with a large number of minors would lead to something terrible. Well, actually, it happened in 2020, almost 2 years before the leak, so no offense, Princess Di.
You should have thought of that earlier.
Just like anyone else who still associates themselves with Alex. 2020 wasn't very kind to Alex on many levels, so no wonder that his usual love for taking criticism very well went to the whole another level. One of his free floor washers, named Joel the Creeper,
sometimes foreshadowing is relatively obvious,
made him a Discord bot which banned people on site if they were on other servers that Alex deemed hateful. And if it wasn't controversial enough, as 2020 was about to wrap up, it got even worse, because turns out that Joel could easily moderate Alex's hackboxes himself, since he spent all his waking moments there acting like, well, creep. And at many times, his thirst was directed at minors, namely one user who was 13 at the time. But even though he was perfectly aware of this, it didn't stop him. In fact, maybe it was even turning him more, considering these arts that he posted. He didn't spare one other user either, joking about the fact that she's mere hours from turning legal. Well, what can I say? Like Alex, like his Jenny. In the end, all of this came to light on Arasana thanks to an ex-moderator, with an extra flavor of him sparing another freak before he was caught himself, by the reason of, well, actually he did it unintentionally, he doesn't want to do this to kids IRL, okay?
You know how many times I hear that?
He then appeared in a Reddit thread to give his absolute non-apology, in the same spirit about how he just likes to IRP.
2 words, role playing, chat room, dude.
And him sending these feels to underage girls doesn't make him a degenerate. Yeah, sure.
I just like to play like I'm young, I'm not really.
After that, Joel was demoted from all Alex's hackboxes, abandoned all his accounts under that alias and disappeared. Curiously though, right after that, Alex was able to find a new, previously unseen board scrubber who just happened to know how to operate that bot made by Joel. Make of that what you will. The user behind the Arasana thread was bullied into deleting it too, by the way. But you know what the real cherry on top of this pile of excrement was? The same person leaked Discord logs from the private channel of the moderation team. And from their reaction, it seems that they weren't so devastated by the fact that Joel was doing something inappropriate with children. Oh no! 100% of their grief was caused by the fact that he had to leave after he was caught. Furthermore, it is still unclear if he got booted or left on his own, and in fact, the victim claimed that someone from moderation team, and probably the rest of them considering their reaction, knew perfectly well what he was doing all this time, and did absolutely nothing. Yeah. I wonder why. So, after all the things I've presented to you, what do you see? A man with a history of degenerate behavior and unhealthy interactions with minors, making a game about underage characters with really questionable mechanics, that attracts mostly vulnerable and impressionable children, and who consciously surrounds himself with people, sometimes almost as depraved as he is. It really doesn't matter if Alex will ever finish his fetish simulator or not. In a grand scheme of things, this is nothing. Even if somehow he will release his game tomorrow, after all those years it's going to fail and be forgotten anyway. This is a real problem. And there is no guarantee that something terrible is not going to happen again, since his community is a catastrophe in slow motion, and as we already know, they are less than willing to drag something like this into the light. For half of those people, Yandere Simulator is the biggest shot at their lives, and the other half is simply just as bad. Whatever happens, they will deny it as long as it benefits them, like they deny the long trace of allegations following Alex throughout the years, and his easily manipulated community will gladly do whatever they were told to. This is why Yandere Simulator's secret, albeit open, should stop being a secret at all and become a common knowledge for anyone willing to listen, just so the ones who are still ignorant could finally open their eyes and stay away for good. That was a lot to unpack if you ask me. So, first and foremost, I want you to give this video a like, and leave a comment, and subscribe for the future videos. No, not that. I mean, unless if you want to, because what I would really like is to hear your feedback and suggestions for the future videos, like about Alex's early streaming days, or days before, or about his real programming experience, or whatever. Just tell me what you think. I would also like to ask you to show this video to anyone who still defends Alex that you know of. The world isn't just, but this is exactly why we shouldn't just sit back and lament. If you have stories to share that coincide with the theme of this video, then tell us in the comments section. If you have something more than just words, but a concrete evidence of something like this happening in Yandere Simulator's community, then you know where to take it. I would also like to ask you to download this video and keep it safe, because, let's face it, Alex and his goons are not going to let it stay up. So when it goes down, please re-upload it to YouTube, the link should be in the description. But if it stays up long enough and you have too much free time on your hands, well, just like I did, then please, translate it to other languages. I don't know if you can submit subtitles on YouTube anymore, but we'll find a way around. I will try to do it myself with those 1 or 2 other languages I know. If you like tracks from this video, they are all listed in the description, so please go and give some love to their creators where it is possible. They deserve it. Please, don't post some cringy stuff about Alex. I beg you, just compliment their work, okay? And of course, I would like to thank everyone who made this video possible by providing evidence deliberately or not. Shout out to Internet Hate Machine and the Anons who left so many breadcrumbs. Shout out to New Zealand Agricultural Society and many people who collected stuff on Alex for all those years. And special thanks to Activelo for providing a lot of screenshots from Discord. And shout out to our Yandere Simulator's younger yet more honest brother. But my biggest gratitude goes to Sisevs for being brave enough to speak about what happened to her. It takes a lot, and sadly, it's not always enough to bring someone to justice. But in the end, her confession has become a starting point for this video. And I hope this video will become a starting point for something bigger. And of course, I'd like to thank all of you who were able to sit through this whole thing. If you made it this far, you certainly deserve some kind of reward. So, here you go.